Back to Good Morning Kenya. If you're just joining us, you are right in time for the second discussion of the day. Now remember, in regards to the developing story, we will be keeping you up to date as and when we get more information in regards to the toy market fire. Now it is said that according to eyewitnesses' account, the fire might have started at around 3 a.m. But as we get more information, we will be sure to let you know as and when it comes in. But as of now, we want to move on with the discussions of the day. And right now, we want to go into matters revolving around flight safety as a whole. And remember, just borrowing from the incidents of the past weekend, where we saw the plane that crashed that killed 157 people, all that were on board, 32 Kenyans as well. So we just want to just help you know, in the event of, when you're just boarding a flight, what do you need to do? What is expected of you? How do you help yourself to just stay safe all through the flight? And to help me with this discussion, I have three fantastic young people with me in studio. I'll just start with my extreme left. We have Jotham Otieno Oyange. He is an engineer and a pilot as well. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Yes, and to the middle, the only lady here, she's the one who bullies them. She is June Wanjiku Walker. Thank you so much. She is a pilot as well. And to my immediate left, we have Geoffrey Rubia. He is a flight operations officer, all based at Wilson Airport. Thank you guys for being with us this morning. They are young. This is the kind of spirit that we need, all through and through. So thank you so much for just being with us this morning. We just want to just talk about safety when it comes to just anybody out there who is just trying to board a plane. What is expected of them? Now, according to the information in the public domain, flying is supposed to be the safest way of moving from one place to another. Do you agree with that? Let's start with you.
Yeah, flying. It's the safest compared to like traveling with vehicles, because for instance, if you're traveling in a car, there is traffic, there is a lot of traffic jam, but in a flying, you just have to fly smoothly.
All right, June?
I agree. It's the safest mode of transport as well, fastest, efficient as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, you see, when you're flying, you're also guided from ground. You have the air traffic controllers, like your police. Now in the air, they tell you, keep off, do this, maintain this level.
And there's no traffic.
Exactly.
Jotham?
Yeah, I agree with them. That's the safest mode of transport. And one of the factors I think, from my opinion, contributes to it being safer is the use of, when you're in the air, you have, like as you see, the air traffic controller. And in the aircraft itself, there's equipment called the autopilot that guides the aircraft to fly automatically.
Yeah.
So those play a role in making it safer than with a car, as opposed to a vehicle where, it's all manual, and you're flying it manually, and there's no one to direct you, tell you what's the situation ahead,
Yeah.
So I'd agree with them that flying is safer than going with a vehicle.
But just looking at the recent events, you don't inspire, people wouldn't have as much confidence, because be like, especially for those who haven't flown before. But at least you are here to just reassure them that flying is the safest way. And using a motorbike is the most risky way of traveling. And that is like information in the public domain. Now, so from your end, what goes into just preparing for a flight? What do you do to just ensure your flight is good for takeoff? Because, when you're getting into a car, you don't just go in. At least that's what you're required. You go around, check that the wheels, everything is good. You get in, lock the doors so that you don't get hijacked. Lock the doors, the seat belts. Now, when it comes to a plane, what are the nitty-gritties that go into that? Let me start with June.
So immediately you get into your aircraft, it starts from before flight, even as passengers. Before you go through, you have your screening to make sure you're safe, security, so that if you have like dangerous goods, you don't go up there with them, they mess in the aircraft. And then also, before we take off, we have pre-flight checks, so we make sure our aircraft is okay, the propeller, walk around, make sure everything is sour. That's now
you go like peer into the propeller. No,
literally, you do a thorough pre-flight. You even blow into the petrostatic places to get the stall warner sounds. You do thorough checks so that it's better to be on ground safe than be up there and not
find
know
out
what's going on.
Oh snap!
Yeah,
because you can't just park at the side of the road, in the air,
Like let me just pull up here. And Geoffrey?
Another thing, everything starts in the operation center, because we as the flight operations officer, you make a flight plan. Before takeoff, you have to calculate everything, the amount of fuel that the plane will require, the timing and everything. So everything starts with a sketch.
Yeah.
You sit down, you fly the plan, and if you're taking off like to Mombasa, you have to bear in mind the second alternate. For instance, you're landing to Mombasa, and the weather is not in a good condition, so you have to go to the alternate.
Yeah.
So everything starts in flight planning.
Yeah, the operations, your end before you even get to the craft itself.
Yeah.
Now, that's where you determine the routes to be used, if the weather is appropriate enough. At the operations office?
Then there is a meteorological department.
Yeah.
The things called the NOTAMs. So before every flight, there is that, analyzing it in a simple term.
Yeah.
It's
layman's language.
Yeah. It's called a NOTAM, but it's a bunch of papers.
Notice to airmen.
Exactly, notice to airmen. NOTAM, yeah. So it entails everything, the weather, Kisumu, Mombasa, every part. So when you're flying, you'll just Google, you just download the location that you're flying to.
All right.
And you give the pilot the documents, the documentations.
The necessary documents.
The necessary, yeah.
All right. Now, for I believe you also get to interact with the passengers as they're coming on board, yeah? Now, what is expected of a passenger when they're boarding a plane? Because it comes with their own, now I'm going to plane, you know, I'm going to sit over here, I'm going to lean back, lift my leg. But what is expected of a passenger as you're boarding a plane, bearing in mind that safety comes first? Jotham.
One of the things that are expected from the passengers is to read the manuals that are on the aircraft itself behind the seat. There are always safety manuals that tell the passenger what they should do in case of an emergency and procedures, you know, about the aircraft. So one of the things that is expected from the passenger before the plane takes off is to read those manuals, because they can actually save lives.
But do people really read them?
Well, there's some who read them just once, you know, especially for people who fly frequently.
Yeah.
There are those people that first time they'll read it, then the next time they don't need to read it.
I remember.
Yeah. And you know, there's always like very important safety information. Like for example, there's the one for the life jacket. So when the aircraft goes like to a water body, lands on water, the instructions say that you have to wait until you are out of the aircraft, you swim out of the aircraft before you pull the life jacket. So I'll give you an example, a very, very good example. There was an Ethiopian plane that crashed just on the coast of the Indian Ocean about 20 years ago. And when it crashed, the people who were inside the plane pulled their life jackets. And so they got stuck inside the aircraft because, you know, they couldn't get out. So, you know, the water, they just got stuck. They couldn't swim out of the aircraft. Yeah, they're just floating. And most of these people, they didn't read the instruction manual. Now, the instruction manual says that once you're in the water, you're supposed to get out, you know, into the open water before you pull it up. So, but the people, most of the passengers pulled the safety
I'm not
jackets,
going down, like, gotta pull
and
this
they
before I
drowned.
go out.
And you know the plane is going down, so they went out with it and drowned.
Sadly.
Yeah. So if they read the manual, the safety manual that's before takeoff, it would have helped a little bit, you see. That's from my opinion.
But don't you think there should be like an instruction video as compared to the manual? Because, you know, most people wouldn't want to like, now this, but if there was an actual video going, running, do you think that would be more effective?
It would be, but you see, people nowadays are like disinterested. Once they get on a plane, they're like, I just want to reach my destination, get out.
I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
Puts on your pillow, sleep.
You even have like instances in some airlines, you have the cabin crew. Guys, I used to fly in India, this route, blah, blah, blah. When the cabin crew starts giving the passenger briefing, they start making fun of her. So you see, that's where safety starts going wrong. Because if you don't listen to her and something happens.
Just the perception from the beginning.
Yeah, and taking that for granted. There's a reason she gives you that brief before. You know, like bracing for impact and all that.
You know.
Yeah.
Guys be like, I wish I listened.
Exactly.
Instructions. For instance, many of the people have a challenge of following instructions because some to say in particular. If you follow the instructions, you're going to be late. So, for instance, you're traveling in a matatu. I see people like you have to enhance your belt when you know there is a traffic police, but the safety it begins with you. So the best thing is following instructions. In doing anything.
It's like following a recipe. When you follow a recipe, you don't go wrong.
Yes.
Now, when even just before when you're preparing to just fly, there are those things that you need to do, you need to be aware of, and we just want to get them from you guys. Let's just, for the benefit of the public, let's just start by how you dress. is there a way you're supposed to dress when you are just taking any flight, regardless of how long or short it is? What would be the most advisable way in terms of what you put on and how you put it on? Let me start with you, June.
For example, uniform. So as a female pilot, we have to dress up. From the top, starts with your shirt, your bars, your wings, to show that you actually had your first solo so you can fly. And everything, uniform, shoes must be well-fitting. Everything goes on like that. Starts with you as a person, your preference and what you're comfortable in. And if you're comfortable in that, can you fly the way you are? Because you see also when it comes to flying, you just don't wear any other shoes as well. Like sharpshooters, for instance, you know, braking becomes trouble, and that is still not safety. Yes.
And when it comes to the passenger, is there a way you're supposed to dress when you are, or a standard way of what you're supposed to dress and how you are supposed to dress when you are about to take off? Jotham?
Okay, from my opinion, I'd say that it would be advisable, like, to have like both, like, you know, a long sleeved, you know, because there's some aircraft that have the air conditioning system makes you dehydrated. So to be advisable, like, to carry both, you know, everything that covers your whole body. And from my opinion, I'd say that.
All right. And in regards to having like a standby run kit, in the event things go wrong, you're able to just grab like a small bag and just be sure you have all your valuables. Is that something that you would actually advise passengers to have?
Okay, in an aircraft there is a cargo department. You can't walk into the aircraft with all the parcels. So for instance, you have to carry some few parcels, but if it's large, some of them are kept in the cargo department. So what you can carry on your body should be just maybe like yourself, and it should be off, your ID, your passport, cards, and maybe emergency contact. Those are the things that you would actually advise in a fanny pack if you, you know, just kukinuka. You're able to just run off. You don't have to reach for so many other things in the event of an emergency. Now, and in terms of, you know, most people when you are traveling, especially long distances, you just want to just chill, relax, and maybe have a drink. But for some, they tend to go overboard, such that in the event of an emergency, they're just there, like, okay, they're in another world. Now, in terms of just what you drink when you are on board, your thoughts on that?
I think we should keep it minimum, because you know what happens is pressure, So one beer on the ground is different from one beer up there. Totally different. Get drunk really quick up there. So I'd advise just keep it low, minimum. Because imagine you're drunk and then an emergency occurs. How are you going to even save? You'll actually be putting the other lives of passengers in danger. Imagine you're to run down the aisle to ditch or something. When you're drunk there, how will you escape? You see, you become a liability to safety hazard,
yourself and the others.
The entire cabin and everyone inside.
Jotham, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. But another thing is before flight, there are some drinks that usually also affect, like they're commoners, like coffee, like black coffee. It affects, like it dehydrates you when you go higher, when you gain altitude. So like coffee is one of the things that maybe if it's coffee, maybe with milk, but coffee by itself, decaffeinated, usually dehydrates the body, and it makes you feel like worn out, you know, as the plane gains altitude. So for me, I'd say maybe I always try and avoid coffee before I fly personally.
All right. Now, in terms of the safety videos that are there, and when you're actually giving out the instructions, what are in those instructions?
Okay, safety first. For instance, if you get into an aircraft, you have to tighten your safety belts while taking off, because while taking off, you're cruising. So just in case of anything, you just need to be tight. But when you reach in a certain level, you can now, when the plane is stabilized, you can now tighten your belts, and then you can move. So it depends on the situation of the aircraft. Takeoff and landing, your safety belt should be tightened.
Always should be on. What other instructions are actually given out before takeoff?
So before takeoff, like for instance, if you fly, it depends on every aircraft. Every aircraft has a different setting, doors, different placement and everything. So you see, in an emergency, you have to know where your emergency exits. Every aircraft is different. You see where you sit at the wings, that's for able-bodied people. That's where the things are, the doors are. So in case of emergency, you know, I can run here. So it's important on that safety briefing to know your emergency exits, location of first aid box, location of fire extinguisher, all these things.
All right.
Yes.
And I also read that it's advisable not to put like heavy luggage in that car compartment up there.
Yes, the overhead cabin things.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the event of an emergency.
It can just open and everything hits you.
Like turbulence.
Turbulence as well.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. And what about when you're having children on board, mid-flight, they can start running around. Is that something that you'd actually advise like passengers to just let the children be as soon as we approach just landing, contain them?
No.
No?
The aisle should always be clear in case of emergency.
In
So your
case of
kids,
emergency.
you hold them, keep them with you.
Be
Plus,
alert.
the cabin crew give them fun things to do.
Yeah.
So you sit them down. Yes.
All right, so it's always important to listen to the cabin crew. Don't go there thinking that since I fly oftenly, I know these things. There's always something that you don't know, right? Now, in the event of an emergency, what are the basics that a passenger is required to do before even taking that selfie in your oxygen mask? What are the basic, immediate things that you are supposed to do? Let me hear from you first.
Those are the instructions that they are briefed by the cabin crew.
Yeah.
The first thing is you have to pull out the oxygen marks, and then take off. It's a journey of faith. It's a risk. So when you're up there, anything can happen. So you're supposed to be alert every time. So the first thing you just have to put the oxygen.
Put on your oxygen
Yeah,
mask. All right. The next thing.
It's just basically, for me, I'd say safety starts with us adhering to cabin crew rules. You see, like when you take off and landing are the most critical phases of flights. So imagine when you're taking off, the cabin crew comes, tells you, make sure the window, the shutter is open so you can see. In case there's fire, when taking off, you can see. And also your chair is meant to be upright. That stable thing folded. Because you see all this in case of emergency comes problems. Yeah, so it's just listening to them, following instructions from the minute you enter the aircraft till the end of flight. You see, when the plane lands, you guys start opening the seatbelt sign is wrong until it comes to a full stop and the seatbelt sign goes off.
So another thing to add, it's about following instructions.
Exactly.
Because the cabin crew,
Yes.
will have to inform you everything. So basically, if you follow the instructions, everything will work out well.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, and when you see a fire, you shout fire. And like you're just looking at it, you know, oh, there's a fire. That looks pretty. No, you're just supposed to just alert in any way or the other. Now, what is the most common causes that bring about faults in crafts? What are the most common that you guys have been able to interact with?
Most of the faults are mechanical in nature, like the instruments fail. But when each instrument fails, there's a procedure to troubleshoot it to ensure, you can still fly the plane if one instrument fails, There's always a standby instrument. So they're always like the training, if this fails, do this, step A. If B fails, go to C. So that's what happens is a mechanical fail. The other fail that usually encountered is at times it's either the mechanical or sometimes it's also pilot error. Sometimes it could be a misunderstanding, either the air traffic controller, gave the wrong direction, or the pilot who was flying it, made an error. So those are the main kind of errors that come or I've encountered personally.
All right. Yeah. And what if an engine fails when you're mid-air, like one of the engines fails?
We are trained for that.
What do you do in such a situation?
Okay, as pilots, so we have this operating handbooks and all, what to do in case of this. So assuming I have like engine failure, I know what to do immediately. You first diagnose the problem, no committed checks. This is open field. If this happens, I can land here. So you're always prepared.
Always
prepared.
Always
backup. If this happens, I know what to do.
Do you always have to look out for like, so I need somewhere to land in the event that I have to? You have to always,
yes, or a road you can land on in case anything happens.
So that's a requirement. Like crash landing must be, there has to be an area that is like on standby, waiting for me to land there in the event.
And it can be anywhere. Imagine you're flying from Wilson to like Magadi, and then suddenly your engine fails. There's this road here, Rongai.
That way, you just say, yo, send word out.
Yes.
All right. Now, I was just reading somewhere that during takeoff and landing, those are the most riskiest phases of any flight. So it would be advisable to just, if you can, get a direct flight.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with it, because takeoff, when a plane is safe when it's on air.
Yeah.
That's where it's safe. So taking off, when you take off, now I'm good to go.
Yeah.
So takeoff and landing are the most critical things.
Yeah.
When you take off, you're sure that I'm going to land. Yeah.
So it would be advisable if you can get just a direct flight, which in most cases is not possible. But if you can, it would be more advisable as compared to just transit, a sort of transitory flight.
I beg to differ.
Yeah.
I'd prefer anything because you see, at the end of the day, when you're doing a direct one, it's cheaper on the company. It's efficient on that part of theirs, and like transits and all the, you know, because every airline has like, what do you call it, holds at an airport. So you know they have like KQ has this stand here at Heathrow, blah blah blah, the same. So that's the same thing.
All right. You agree or differ?
Well, I don't necessarily agree with them.
Yeah.
I think that each passenger has their own different needs, you know. There are some who
Just
would
to try and
prefer-
avoid the situation
Yeah,
that you
there's
have to take off.
Yeah, there are some who
The number of times you have to
yeah, but let me give you an example. Like, for example, let's say like people who are doing like business, you know,
Yeah.
they need to go to town A, land, you know, take off again, go to town B, finish their business, then go to town C, you know, and so on, you know. So you see, this are like a different set of passengers, you know, where they have to go from town A, you know, and then there are those who just go like maybe they want to return home or they want to go for a holiday or they want to go to school, you know. Those are the ones that make like the long distance trips, you know.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree with him, partially like from an operational point of view.
Yeah.
When the plane makes a direct flight, it puts less wear and tear on the tires, you know, because when, you know, when the tires touch the tarmac when it's landing, yeah, and also it reduces the stress on the engine, you know, from takeoff. Yeah. So from an operational point of view, it saves, it's more efficient.
In wear and
exactly.
tear, and also
Yeah.
from a passenger's point of view, I just want to reduce the number of times
Yeah, exactly.
that I have to take off.
Exactly.
I have to risk, be at risk more often.
Yes.
All right. Now, when you are getting on a plane, you're always told to switch off your phone. Why is that? Let's start from the operations point of view.
It's a gadget,
Yeah.
and at the control, it's an electronic, so it will interfere
Interferes?
with the communication. So for instance, when it's on, it's going to interact the pilot in the communications. Because it's a gadget, it's an electronic, and the pilot uses it's like an electronic thing. You have to call the tower, the control room, so it's gonna interact.
Yeah.
So it's better you switch it off to avoid those hindrances.
But you find most people just switch them off when you're taking off. Once you're already en route, you just switch it on, and then when you're about to land, you switch it off again.
Usually it's advisable to have it off so it doesn't interfere with our communication systems.
Yeah.
You see, in an aircraft, we have radios, so we have the headsets,
The
so we tune
frequencies,
into
yeah.
the frequencies.
Yeah.
So the phone signals, even when I'm flying, you hear. If like your phone is on, for example, you know that sound, that it disturbs the frequency. So it's good to have it off.
All right. You'd like to add to that?
I'd say that it's always good to turn it off. You know, sometimes they say that it's better to be safe than sorry, you know. So like, the phone signals, at times they affect the radio communication on between the pilot and the air traffic controller. So like by turning it off, it's just being safe, you know. You don't want to have a situation where the phone was responsible, you know. The pilot was trying to contact like the air traffic control, and you know, they couldn't hear each other because someone out there, you know, someone was trying to talk to, you know, his sweetheart back home, or, you know, or his son back home, telling him how okay is his situation. So that's what I think.
Yes. All right, and there's just this question that might directly in the event of an emergency and you're clear it's going down, at what point do you jump out?
When your day comes, it's come.
Imekuja. There's no jumping
Mungu
out.
akitaka uende, unaenda tu. You just have to accept.
Actually, you're the captain. Let's say you're the captain.
Yeah.
How can you jump and leave the rest? Yet
No,
you're-
he's speaking from a passenger point of view.
Okay.
Yes, that now brings in the questions of parachutes. Like, depending on the kind of craft, which ones have chutes for all the passengers in the event of an emergency, or which kind requires?
Okay, like as of right now, there's only, most commercial jets don't have the parachute, but there's a general aviation aircraft, like the Cirrus aircraft has a parachute. So what happens with it
Now
is
what's that?
a Cirrus. Okay, the Cirrus aircraft is a single-engine aircraft that has a parachute at the back. So in case the engine fails, how the parachute works is when there's a sense in the aircraft that detects the G-force. So when it falls abruptly,
G-force is gravity force.
exactly, just how it exactly. So exactly. So like it deploys once it senses a rapid movement in the aircraft's altitude.
Yeah.
It deploys and then it just comes just like a parachute, you know, the people with the parachutes, you know, they come,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, that's how the plane comes.
That's the fun bit.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And are smaller crafts safer than the big ones, or the big ones are safer than the small ones?
It all depends on the engineers fixing it and the people flying it.
Yeah?
Yes.
Because I was reading that bigger crafts are safer in terms of the numbers and all the whole mechanical and technical bits that are involved in a bigger craft are intense as compared to a smaller craft.
Yeah,
So the smaller ones are more prone to accidents as compared to big ones.
True, and the big ones are now equipped with like the ditching things and all.
Yeah.
Our small ones, the most we can do is glide and do committed checks and locate somewhere
Or
to
just
land.
dive out.
That's it. Very simple. But now imagine the big one has all that, the ditching things, the slides, the life jackets. Yes.
Yeah.
It's bigger is safer.
Bigger is safer.
Another challenge is the small one. For instance, you're taking off, there are things called the crosswinds and the headwinds. So you might be taking off,
And then
and then you find yourself, just tilting because
Drifting,
of the winds. Yeah, they're called the crosswinds, the headwinds. So the small ones are quite challenging, but you overcome.
You overcome them.
Yeah.
All right. Now, let's just look at some of the hazardous materials, the actual ones that, you know, you as a pilot, as an operations officer, as an engineer, just know that these ones are a no-no, regardless of whether you're going to use them or not in the plane. Let me start with you, Jotham.
Could you please repeat the question?
The hazardous things that people carry on board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
One of the hazardous things I'd say is I'd say things that have, some of the hazardous things like today is maybe things like, you know, knives, you know. You know, at first they look innocent, you know, but, you know, in the past, you know, people have used them for nefarious things, you know, bad incidents. So I'd say knives, and also at times, there's some, at times you'd go with lighters, they're not allowed, and at times also spray cans, these aerosol cans. At times they're not safe, they can, if they rupture, explode, yeah.
Because of altitude,
exactly.
pressure?
Yeah, and also this, some types of lithium batteries are not safe because, you know, as the aircraft climbs, it could affect how the batteries work, and it can create static that ignites and fire comes out. That's how fire comes out. So I'd say like lithium batteries at times, depending on how they're stored and the temperature, would be one of the great hazards on an aircraft.
So in most cases, they need to be removed from the device.
Especially on the
in first
cargo,
place.
there's a specific, there are rules that state how they should be stored and transported.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jim?
Hazardous materials are called dangerous goods, yeah?
Yeah.
So every time you go to an airport, even before you take off, like when you're actually being checked in, they actually ask you, do you have this and this on board? And there's usually a poster written things you should not have with you.
But
This
people
knives.
don't always listen.
They actually now check, and that's why we also have the, what you call the metal detectors. Yes, even nail cutters, small things, the Swiss knives.
Yeah. All right.
All hazardous.
All hazardous. Tudogo.
Tudogo
So I'll
too.
cut my nails on board, you know, as I wait to land. Now, looking at just the training bit from now, your side, you guys have interacted with different pilots, engineers, and operation officers from different countries and different backgrounds. Now, in terms of looking at the training levels, do you feel that there's a bar that has been set that cuts across board for you guys, or there are different standards and things needs to be changed looking at the Kenyan setup? Let me start with you, Geoffrey.
Okay, aviation, it's like a skill. Like let me say on flight operations, it's a skill. If I understand filling the flight plan, I've understood it. So it's a skill that comes into you.
Yeah.
So for instance, if training is cool, the system is the same, and then when the skill gets into you, you're good for it.
Yeah.
It's like, for instance, you're driving a car. When you're able to drive a car, you're able to drive it. So because the skills, it's inside you.
But you know that those driving schools you go to, yes, they teach you how to drive, and then you go to somebody who's going to you meet someone who's going to a different driving school, and the way you were taught, things are so different. You're like, wait, I thought we were both being taught how to drive a car. You know, is it the same with aviation?
different. Because you see, we also have different types of aircraft. Let's say you're training on the Cessna. Your procedures are totally different on this aircraft compared to that. So, and then we also have the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, who's our regulating body. Yeah? So other countries, Canada and all, also have the authorities, aviation authorities. So our standards are almost similar. So that's our guideline. Exams are like Oxford Aviation, British exams. So there's that thing that regulates us. So I think we're actually at par. Very good pilots.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's dependent on the specific kind of craft that you are being trained for.
Precisely.
It's like the cars, or a small car or a motorbike. It's
precisely. Because the challenge we have with most of my friends, they studied in South Africa. I've done all my training here in Kenya and a bit of UK, Oxford Aviation College. So when they go there, then they have like different types of aircrafts, the Seminoles. In Kenya, we don't have them. So assuming you've gone further your studies there, when you come here, you have to convert. So that's now where the training becomes tricky and takes so long because you're used to flying that. You come here, you have to learn this other one. That's where the problem usually comes.
And then you find so many people going abroad to study aviation. Jotham.
Yes.
Same.
Oh yeah, for me, I'd say, I was I'd say that's the situation of like people going like this structures abroad are kind of different from the structures here. Like for example, let's say like over here, it's just the transition, like the transition from the flight school to the airlines. There's like a gap, there's like a gap. It's not like a straightforward process, and that's one aspect I think, probably needs to be looked after. Just the transition, from the time, like let's say you go from high school to the flight school, then to the next level.
All right. So as you choose to further your education, bear in mind that you'll come back to Kenya. You'll have to convert all that. Just to be more applicable here,
exactly.
to just help you even help yourself know just how to go about it. So if you can, just maintain. All right, now let's just quickly go to now. You guys have been flying. How long have you been a flight operations officer?
Around 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Flying, June?
Been flying for 5 years, done other courses for 2 years.
So a total of 7 years experience. Jotham?
I've been flying for right now 12 years.
12 years. Now, when you interact with guys and they look at you like, "Ay, you're the one who's going to be flying us," and you look like this, so young, how do you handle that when people look down on you just basing from how you look because of your age? Because, they'd say they prefer more refined people. How do you handle that?
It's a dream. We have to follow it and have to be part of the process. That's how it goes.
And especially you being a lady.
I like it. So many people are, okay, we have the chauvinists on one side. And then now we have the nice, encouraging people. Oh my God, there's a lady flying, we're booking that airline. That's now how I like it.
All right. Jotham?
For me, I'd say it's not the age of the pilot that makes a good pilot. It's the experience of the pilot. So you get like I told you before, a 25-year-old who was maybe, 3,000 or 4,000, and you can get a 50-year-old, who has the same number of experiences. When they're flying the plane, they'll fly the same, regardless of their age. It's the experience that is going to play the biggest role on whether the plane lands safe during an emergency or not. So that's what I'd say in my opinion.
All right. And when you interact with guys and they're looking at you like, "Hey, wewe ni kijana,
Okay, I'd like to emphasize on this point. It's all about experience. In aviation, someone may be old and someone young. It's all about, like for instance, the pilots. It's hours. It's measured upon the hours.
The hours that you fly. That's what you mean by 3,000, 10,000.
Exactly. It's the hours that matter, not the age.
So the more the hours, the more the experience. So I may be young and I have like very many hours. That makes me experienced.
More experienced.
So it's not about age, it's all about the experience.
All right, so it's all about the experience. Don't look down on somebody just because of how they look. You do not know what they have done. You do not know how many crash landings they have, hacked.
Or what they've been through.
What they've been through. What's the story there?
Exactly.
What's your worst flying experience that you have encountered?
Okay,
and the best, for that matter.
Okay, for me, the worst was I was flying in a very dense airspace, kind of similar to what you have, like it was a very big, bigger than Jomo Kenyatta. And when I was flying to the airport, the airspace, one instrument, the radio failed. My radio, it's the one that allows you to talk to the air traffic controller. it kind of failed, and I was flying alone at that time, so I didn't have an instructor. I was 20. I was very young, about 2019. So when my radio failed, the air traffic controller, was trying to talk to me. I could hear him, but he couldn't hear me. He was telling me that there's an instrument on the aircraft called a transponder, and it was malfunctioning, so they couldn't see me.
What does a transponder do?
A transponder is just like the one you find on your phone, that it gives you your beacon. It's like a beacon. It gives you your location, just like how you have your phone, and there's a GPS. Yeah, you're here in KBC studios. You're in CBD. Yeah, so that instrument failed, and what I just did is I just did what I was trained. I just continued with my route. Squawk. There's a code that you squawk on the transponder.
By squawking, you mean you beep.
Exactly. That says there's a exactly. So the code is 7600. Yeah. And I just put that in, telling them that I have a radio failure. So I continued with my flight to my destination and landed safely. And then I made sure I told them what happened. So they went and figured out that it was the plane. There's a mechanical issue with the aircraft, and the engineers later on fixed it.
All right.
Yes.
And what of your best experience flying?
Oh, my best experience flying was when I was in the air, and there was actually when I was actually flying, I saw this projectile coming towards the aircraft, and I was really scared because I thought it was a missile, but it was not a missile. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So that time my instructor told me that's not a missile. That's actually a rocket going to space, because it was close to the space coast. Yeah. So yeah, that was the most memorable experience for me flying, watching a space shuttle going to space, and you're in the air. It was.
How high were you?
I was not very high.
In terms of altitude?
I was around, let's say, maybe 9,000 feet at that time.
Feet.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Yeah. Cloud 9.
Cloud 9, yes.
All right. What about you, June?
My first experience flying, my best experience.
Tell me about your first experience flying.
My first experience was ridiculous. There on the ground, you think, this plane, you think in the cockpit you have like a steering wheel, and the steering wheel controls you on ground. So my first lesson for Mil, I had my instructor there taxiing. So he's controlling the plane. I'm thinking it's the control column you use on the ground. Yeah. He's using the rudder pedal, so he's taking me the grass, like, control your aircraft. I'm so confused. I'm like, no, it's on ground you use your rudders. Just two things for directional control.
To just strike a balance.
Yes, so you have a center line. That's now how you balance, like cycling.
It's like driving a manual car.
It was an interesting one.
Balance.
And then my first solo too. I felt like the aircraft was an extension of me. And my hands became like my wings. It was awesome. Yeah? Yeah. And it happened on my birthday, imagine. 5 years ago. The best
That must have been something.
Yes.
And what has been your worst or most terrifying experience flying?
Okay, let's say like bush flying. So far. Every flying experience is different, and everything has crazy things. Yeah. For example, like bush flying, I really love doing that. Flying the coast, along the coastline.
Bush flying is
just like flying to unmanned places, not airport, where you have control. You have an airstrip, like for example in Mara, we have so many. So that type of things. You land in the wilderness, you have animals on the side, ostriches running on the runway. It's interesting. I love that. I love Kenya.
You used to have a bad experience as...
They're there, but you work with them.
They have been manageable.
Yes.
All right. And looking at your side of the divide in terms of operations, have you ever given like misdirected an incoming flight? What has been your experience?
I've experienced a challenge. It's a positive challenge. A caravan is a Cessna 28. It's for like 14 passengers. So it's takeoff and everything you've cleared with the pilot. Yeah. Then after the takeoff, he calls you and tells you that the transponder has malfunction. So there are clients there, and for instance, in the aviation.
And you were supposed to detect that. But that happens on the craft. The pilot is the one who detects that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're in the operations, and these are your clients. They know about you. They don't know about the pilot. They know the operations. So they know that we are safe. So now he calls you and tells you that the transporter has failed. And for instance, they're going to Mandera. They're taking like examination. It's something urgent. Yeah. So you're like, now.
Now everybody turns to you.
Yeah. So now the plane has to, because the transporter, as you've said, it controls. You can't fly
go without it.
It shows your location.
Yeah.
And there's to air traffic control.
It's used for like search and rescue in case of emergency. Yes.
Okay. So that has been my my challenging time. Yeah.
All right.
And my best time, it's my first experience in flying. It was my first time to board on a plane, and it was a Piper. and the G-forces.
Now what's a paper?
Or it's like it's like a type. It's like a model. It's a company that makes the aircraft Piper. It's kind of like how you have Boeing, Airbus.
Oh, it's
but
like
only this time
itself.
the difference is that it just makes small planes.
Then it's twin
All
engines.
right.
So we took off and
Two engines.
yeah. So we took off, and it was my first experience. The G-forces. Actually, my prayer was I was praying there because I didn't see like I'm going to come back. So immediately we landed. I didn't want to see the airport because of the G-forces.
Yeah.
The G-forces, you know, you feel like you don't feel your weight.
Yeah.
You just feel
Like
it's
you're
crazy.
levitating.
Yeah. So that has been my interesting encounter.
Rather beautiful experience, beautiful, bittersweet experience.
Sure.
All right, so as we just draw the conversation to an end, those hacks that you'd actually advise passengers to just take on before you board any flight, even if it's not yours, if you meet them, good for them, but just the basics for passengers as you board a flight, how you prepare for a flight, how you behave, and when you touch down, what you are supposed to do. Let me start with you, Geoffrey.
Okay, when you touch down, there is a procedure. A pilot has a procedure, a checklist. Immediately you touch down, you have to check everything. There is that procedure. You taxi to the runway, you shut the engines. So there is a procedure. Everything starts with a procedure. So it will go taxi, then the passengers now can be told, it's your time now, you can board the plane. So it's a procedure. Yeah.
It doesn't just land at You just start moving. June?
Safety starts again with adhering and listening to those instructions, and that is it. Yeah.
Just listen.
Just listening, because everything starts with listening. There's a reason you're told to do this. Yeah.
All right.
For me, I'd say like after landing, one of the safety things is to keep your seat belts fastened and to remain in your seat. You know, because you can. Let me give you an example. You can imagine like a big plane that's moving, taxiing on the ground, and then all the passengers decide to stand and then move around. The force, the center of gravity moves, so if they move on one side of the aircraft, it can put a lot of stress on the wheel, and it can damage the wing. So it's just better if the passengers remain to their seats and keep their seats fastened, just for safety.
Until you're told
exactly.
it's now.
Until it stops, and then you can disembark.
Orderly.
Yes, exactly.
Just stand up and
exactly.
Yeah. All right. So just as we wind up, there's this crash that happened just on Sunday, 8:38 in the morning. 32 families lost their loved ones. One family lost 5 members. I'm sure you guys have heard of that.
Yes.
Just your word of encouragement to the families that have been bereaved and Kenya as a whole. I'll start with you, Jotham.
For me, I'd like to send my condolences to the family of those who were affected, and I hope the people who departed, their souls rest in peace. Yes.
All right, Geoffrey?
I give my condolences to them. It's a very sad story, and my prayer is that may the Lord comfort their souls, because it's a big tragedy that has affected the whole nations. In that plane, there were CEOs, there were big people, bosses. So it has affected everyone. So may the Lord comfort their souls. And
children as well. And the pilot as well, who is part of the entire, flying fraternity.
Sure.
June?
My heartfelt condolences to the families that have lost their loved ones. And in aviation, it's also very sad for us as pilots when something like that happens. It's something we do every day. We all fly. Everyone flies. We have to move from point A to B. So when you hear such incidences, you just have to strong with God and pray every day for safety. You never know what will happen. Every flight is different. And the pilot had actually sent word out that there is a problem, I need to land. And before he was able to, just all right, so as you fly, just remember, you never know, just be ready. And actually, flying, let's not say a point. Yes, please. It's an action of faith. Yeah. Because when a pilot take off, he has a belief that he's going to land. So in all, we need to acknowledge God, because everything, God is the captain. I may be experienced, I have everything, but we should acknowledge God, because that trajectory, it's flying in the spiritual realm, and everything was created out of the unseen. So we need to acknowledge God. Yeah, crafts are such fantastic creations. How they just decide to float there and stay there, I think is just one of the brilliant inventions that man has ever discovered. And of course,
Thank you guys for just being with us, just sharing this information. You guys, you have heard, just listen, the cabin crew, these people put their life at risk to make sure that you get to where you're going safe. They're the ones who just take care of you on board. They fly you to just make sure that you get to where you're going safely. So just listen. Follow instructions if you're on board. Follow the emergency protocols. I believe they're always given. In the event of an emergency, they will go through them again, let you know what you need to do, where you need to be, how you should do the things that you are supposed to do. So just simply follow instructions as you board a flight, when you're en route, and when you touch down. I have been speaking with 3 fantastic young people who are doing fantastic things in Kenya. I'll start with the lady. She is June Wanjiku Walker. She is a pilot. Kudos, my girl. Keep doing what you're doing. Yes. Bully the boys all the way. All right, and to my extreme left, we have Jotham Otieno Oyange. He is a pilot and an engineer as well. And to my immediate left, we have Geoffrey Munai Rubia. He is a flight operations officer, all stationed at the Wilson Airport. Thank you guys for being with us this morning. The conversation does continue here on Good Morning Kenya. Remember, we will be giving you more information on the developing story. That is the fire that happened at Toy Market this morning. It is alleged that it started at around 3 a.m. We are yet to get confirmed information on what caused the fire, the damage so far, what is the situation on the ground. But as we get that information, we will be sure to share it with you. So keep it here on Good Morning Kenya. We want to catch a quick break, but do not go anywhere. We will be right back. Keep talking. #Good Morning Kenya on Twitter.